I worked on Jurassic Park, and all I got was my picture of this crummy baseball card. But seriously, Jurassic Park was a lot of fun. It was a lot of hard work. Worked on it for about 2 years. And the creation of the life-size T-Rex encompassed nearly half of that time. So, around September of 1989, rumors were circulating in Hollywood that Steven Spielberg was going to be filming Jurassic Park. Now, the manuscript for the book, before it had been even released, was circulating in LA, and I managed to get my hands on a copy, and I read the manuscript for the book before the book was even released, and thought, wow, this would make a great movie if they were made this. And we started hearing the rumors about Spielberg. At the time, I was working at Stan Winston's on Terminator 2, and around February of 1990, the majority of my work on T2 was finished. And also we were working on Batman Returns, and that was mostly done to sculpting penguins for them. Because they won't let you strap rockets to real penguins. Unfortunately. Stan called me into his office one morning and said, "You're going to sculpt the T-Rex." So it kind of fell right into my lap. I didn't have to go anywhere. This is the first drawing that Crash, Mark McCreary, had done. It was the first original T-Rex design. The first drawings Crash did held a lot of promise for us, and we were all very excited. And they were based on sound paleontological thought. Stan, though, he liked the initial designs, but he wanted to make the T-Rex more fierce looking. Okay? To my astonishment, I came to realize that in Hollywood, a T-Rex that was 18 feet high and 40 feet long with 6-inch teeth and huge claws just wasn't scary enough. So we began the Hollywood design process, and it had to be the Arnold Schwarzenegger of T-Rexes. Okay? It really had to be scary. These initial drawings were done under Stan's direction, and unfortunately they bear little resemblance to any dinosaur anatomy, particularly on the skull. Unfortunately, these, I was soon to discover, were going to become my guide in sculpting the T-Rex. Stan wanted me to do a 7-foot scaled down T-Rex, okay, 1/5 scale. And it would become, at that time, we were planning on realizing the effects for Jurassic Park, that this T-Rex would become a rod and cable puppet, much like my science project, Tyrannosaur. The sculpture would also become the prototype for the life-size robotic T-Rex that we were going to build. We would also do an animation model that Phil Tippett would animate for the bulk of the T-Rex sequences where the T-Rex is running around. I came to the project armed with Greg Paul's great book, Predatory Dinosaurs of the World, my dinosaur Bible. And his illustrations fell right in line with the way Michael Trcic characterized the dinosaurs in his book. As swift and efficient eating machines. Robert Backer's fantastic book, The Dinosaur Heresies, and frequent phone calls to Backer frequently further bolstered my resolve to do the T-Rex justice. 5 days into sculpting the 5th scale T-Rex, you can see I'm really working on the skull and trying to get the skull anatomy accurate. I had in my head that because Jurassic Park was about cutting-edge science, that the dinosaurs needed to be extremely accurate. At least what we knew at that time about dinosaurs. I love Stan to death, but honestly, his sole knowledge of dinosaurs was that they fought giant gorillas. So that was a constant battle for him. It was a daily battle for him. And I tried to push ahead and try to show Stan how cool a authentic T-Rex could look, but he wasn't interested. He wanted me to do the design. The plan was that the T-Rex would have snarly lips and needle-like teeth and movable cheeks and brows so we could make really scary faces. We'd give it flaring nostrils, and just really animate the face. At this stage of the design, literally you couldn't see the T-Rex's eyes looking dead on the nose. So much for binocular vision, right? And the project was becoming a nightmare for me. My wife can attest to that. Finally, and slowly, after many arguments with Stan, I think he finally came to see how ridiculous the T-Rex was beginning to look. It slowly came back around. And little by little, I was able to bring the T-Rex around and got it to look reasonably realistic. Although I tell people I think I only got it to about 60% of where I really wanted it to be. With the completion of the 5th scale Rex and the other dinosaur maquettes done, Stan had crashed redo the pre-production drawings. This time, based on photos of the finished sculptures. So it looked like we intended them to look like this way all along. You gotta love it. We then made molds out of silicone and fiberglass, with a fiberglass mother mold. Here's the T-Rex, and here's the Rex with the fiberglass mother mold being bolted around it. The silicone is then poured into the void between the sculpture and the fiberglass, making the rubber mold. Master castings were then made in foam latex, and a rigid urethane casting was sent to Dennis Murin, head of optical effects up at ILM. He wanted to run some tests. We had no idea at the time what they were for. With the sculpture of the 5th scale complete, the prototype was done. Stan's studio finally secured all the life-size dinosaurs for Jurassic Park. He decided that he wanted to make his senior artists leaders of our respective dinosaurs. So, like Chris Swift got the Velociraptors, Andy Schoenberg did the Brachiosaur, Shane Mayhem did the Spitter, Shannon Shade did the baby Triceratops. Wait, baby Triceratops? There was no baby. It unfortunately got cut out of the film at the last minute. Shannon was crushed. Yeah, he was the other dinosaur nut there. He got the only dinosaur that got axed. Paul Matthias got the Gallimimus. And we became team captains for our dinosaurs. After the 5th scale Rex was completed, my next assignment was to sculpt the stop motion model. Now, when I was a kid, I wanted to be an animator thanks to King Kong. And I can't tell you what a thrill it was for me to be working on something that I knew Phil Tippett was going to be animating. I was a huge fan of Phil's from the early days of his career, films like Equinox and Star Wars, Dragon Slayer. It was a dream come true for me. Plus, Phil was a dinosaur guy too, and I knew he had the clout to actually whisper in Steven's ear and make sure that the dinosaurs were accurate for the film. Here we have little Elvis, came to serenade the little Rex and the little mini-me. It was during the latter phases of the 1/16th Rex sculpture that we saw the first initial test footage from ILM of the CG Rex scrolling through a blade. Murin and his crew at ILM had scanned one of the models that we sent him and completely in the computer created a living, breathing T-Rex. And movies would never be the same. The footage, when we saw this, it just blew us away, and it confirmed what we had suspected on Terminator 2, that CG was here to stay. And it was only going to be utilized in more and more ways. With this footage, Steven decided that the dinosaurs for the movie could be completely realized with our life-size dinosaurs and CG. The stop-motion model now would only be used for animatics, video storyboards. CG became the death knell, basically, for stop-motion, traditional stop-motion animation. We got psyched up for the start of the life-size Rex by having Crash doing a life-size profile, and we posted it up in the studio, getting ready for construction. Construction of the Rex began in September of 1991. The life-size Rex started with a rigid urethane casting that we made of the 5th scale. We sliced it up like a loaf of bread. Each piece was numbered and placed on a projector, projected onto a piece of plywood, which was then traced, numbered, and placed on a aluminum framework. When the pieces were all in place, the armature was then covered with fiberglass cloth, creating a sturdy base for the massive amounts of clay to fall. Here's the first application of clay on the T-Rex armature. You can still see the fiberglass in front of the eye up on that cylinder. Initially, I had about 6 crew members helping me to start sculpting the T-Rex. By the time the sculpture had advanced, we had about 30 people working on various parts of the T-Rex body. Stan had to have a section of the roof raised 10 feet over where the T-Rex was being sculpted so we could actually lift it into its final position. I am with the big Rex finally in its proper position. The sculpture here was supported by heavy block and tackle in 2 A-frames, each capable of supporting 4 tons. At this point, all the form is finished, and we just need to start sculpting the surface detail. The legs for the sculpture were built on moving platforms that we could roll in and out of the body, and then that way we could roll them away and work around the legs. And this is the only photo I know that shows all 3 versions of the Jurassic Park T-Rex. We've got the 1/16 scale here in the foreground. We've got the 5th scale in the middle, and life size. By the time we got to this phase, we had about everybody in the studio was working on the T-Rex, trying to get it done and be ready to get it to set. About 60 people were working on various aspects of it. The insert head was built to be used only where the head was needed in the shot, but we found once we got to set that the full-size T-Rex worked so well, we only used the insert head for a couple of shots where it's trying to bite the kids in the overturned Ford Explorer. Although Jurassic Park was a Universal film, all of the stages at Universal were being used, and there were no stages big enough to house the T-Rex paddock sequence. So we, the scenes with the Explorer and Grant and the kids were shot at stage 16 at Warner Brothers. It's the 007 stage. It's the largest sound stage on the lot. Once we got them there, we were shocked to learn that the T-Rex was going to be rained on. Initially, it was planned that it would rain around the robotic Rex, but never on him. But they were going to use CG rain. Okay. Steven, I think wisely, fortunately for us, decided that it would be too difficult to use computer graphics to simulate rain. It would be too problematic. So what we ended up doing was we pulled an all-nighter, and we had to coat it with silicone and stay up all night. And here we are slathering the silicone over it to try and waterproof it and prevent the foam latex skin, which is a sponge, from absorbing too much water. So it was a rather terrifying aspect for us. And even though we did this, we could only film for maybe 2 or 3 hours at a time before the weight of the water would make it start to chatter. Then we'd have to stop and turn it down. And you're up there squeezing the T-Rex's neck and everything, and water's just raining down on you. It was horrible. We had a crew that it was their job to work all night long to dry out the T-Rex using heaters and get all the water out and ready for the next day's filming. Here's our T-Rex powered up. We powered it up late in the day on a Sunday before Spielberg was bringing George Lucas by to see the T-Rex. So we're very excited. And it really was the coolest toy I ever got to play with. I had a crew member shoot some video of the T-Rex moving around, and we wanted to make sure that we had all the bugs worked out. Early Monday morning, Spielberg and Lucas and a whole slew of people in suits came by to see the Rex, and Lucas came up and looked at the T-Rex, and we're moving it around. He stood there for about 5 seconds, and he walked away. That's it. And here we are just checking out the system, making sure everything's working correctly. I'm operating the head in the scene, and Beth is on the tail. The T-Rex required about 14 puppeteers or operators moving different sections of the Rex to bring to life. We had 2 for the arms. We had the eyes, which I ended up doing on set when we were actually filming. We had a breathing mechanism. We had flaring nostrils, tongue, lips, appendix, spleen, you name it. It was all when, like I said, when we began actual filming, I became the puppeteer for the eyes. And we also had to take special precautions around the T-Rex. We learned early on. It was like working around a helicopter. It was potentially very dangerous. One of the first days of filming, we were shooting the scene where the T-Rex head comes down and he's sniffing the kids of the Ford Explorer. And the head actually did bump the door of the Explorer and lifted it up onto 2 legs with the real kids inside the car. So everybody's like this, no, stop, get away. It was a tense moment. The kids were okay, I think they liked it actually.